couple is supposed to be 2.1. And if you look at China, Japan, Korea, they're all way under 2. America, Canada, Australia, they're under 2.
Although in some of those countries, those are due to political, those are due to policies, right?
Fair. China was, but
right.
The other countries not. And Europe, all of Europe is under 2. Now, this isn't the headline out there because the remaining 60% of the developing world, which also associated with the low longevity countries, are still growing in population, and they're supplying us talent. We call that immigration. But the net effect over time, if you continue to promote longevity and prosperity and we spread that around the world, is that you would see these countries convert to the fertility model. And there's many social science reasons why longevity might be associated with declining fertility. They're all fascinating hypotheses. But the net result, empirically, it's heading in the opposite direction. This is complete opposite of the Malthusian fears about population overgrowth leading to competition, running out of resources, running out of everything was the narrative we were told, right? I mean, there was a book by Paul Ehrlich in 1966, Stanford biologist, who wrote a book called The Population Bomb. So since then, we've all been terrified about the fact that if population growth is going to lead to a lot of issues, it looks like, if anything, so far, the longevity movement is actually stabilizing, providing a stabilizing force in population. And maybe we'll find out this most scarce resource isn't oil or water. It's actually people. We might be in the human capital century and the human resource century. If population really starts stabilizing, I think it'll really provide a very different perspective on how we think about resources in general.
And what other, as I mentioned earlier, what other sort of criticisms or concerns are you hearing out there about longevity science?
Not about the longevity science, but some people say, I'm not sure if I want it, right? And a lot of them come back later and say, you know what, actually, I've rethought it. So I've been very curious as to why, and I want to hear Dr. Randall, Dr. Vern's perspective on this, because this initial reaction and the secondary reaction itself is information. It's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. We've somehow made peace with the fact that we're going to age out, probably sometime early in life. So the possibility that may not be the case, at least it'll be different than what we thought, is disruptive enough that I think it gives people pause. And then upon reflection, they start to really understand the incredible positive potential of what this means. So that's something that comes up early. It's like, I'm not sure if I want it. But then when we ask and survey people later, like, you know what, this is really interesting. Tell me more.
Let's actually go to a caller who may help us kind of think through this a little bit more. Sean from Walnut Creek, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I was just wondering how you guys think society, in terms of education, retirement, and politics, will change to accommodate an older or an aging population.
Thanks for your call. So what you're getting at, what we're getting at here is what there's the science and what it can deliver, but then what's the rest of the re-engineering of society that has to go along with that? Yes, Tom Rando.
So I think it's an excellent question, and clearly our institutions have not kept pace with our extension of lifespan. We have really increased substantially the number of people who are living to old age, well beyond retirement age. And we still have a retirement age that's really dated back to the mid-19th century of 65, when people basically retired and died soon thereafter. And that is just not the case anymore, and yet that has not changed. We've not changed any of our basic institutions of when we go to school, when we go to college, when we get our first job, when we have our kids. There's no extension of our kind of life course with this gift that we've had of 30 or 40 years of extra lifespan. So I would say the answer to the question that the caller had was there need to be changes, and there have not been changes. And I think there requires a greater flexibility in how we think of how we spend these years. If it's not going to be about 65, it's going to be closer to 100. We don't want to just tack on all these extra years at the end, as if we've not really thought what to do with them. Because, as mentioned, this kind of human capital that comes with this lifespan extension, if there's really health span extension along with it, provides this great resource of people who live longer, healthier, and able to contribute to society in a significant way, and yet we're very slow to adapt as a culture to this changing demographic. So I think it's a challenge we all face. There are complex political issues in changing retirement age, for example, or changing when we educate. Do we go back and get a second education? Do we go back and get second jobs? But these are topics that are being discussed. There are movements to look at encore careers, the second careers, trying to adapt, but we're very slow to move in that direction.
Perhaps that's the next follow-up show we have to have on this, is those people who are starting to look at how we engineer society to accommodate and to celebrate or to harness what we're potentially hoping will come out of this. I want to stay with you. We have Tom Rando. I have another email here from Kate. Are we seeing successful uses for stem cells in human diseases now, and if so, which ones?
We have successes in using stem cells in human diseases, but they're not specifically the diseases